Hey, this is an exciting show. You see, Maurice wants to bring you some really special stuff. He says he's got the abominable snowman. He said he went to the coldest, bleakest part of Canada's Yukon Territory. Maurice even got a satellite hookup. So, right after tonight's first story, we're gonna bring you Maurice and Sasquatch. The one without the fur will be Maurice. So, here we go, our first freaky story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Murray, the landlord of my old apartment in the Pittman building on 12th Street. Actually, everybody called it the Pit because it was such a disgusting hole. But it didn't matter to me because I'm a traveling salesman. A hole to call my own is all I need. Besides, the worst part of living in the Pit wasn't how disgusting it was having to put up with Murray. Murray the Moocher was a real prize. For instance, when Murray came to collect the rent, it would always be at mealtime. He would stick around and mooch his dinner. Or when he'd help someone take in their groceries, he'd always mooch a few cans and boxes. And if anyone complained about a leaky water pipe, Murray would charge him extra for having a second shower. In fact, the last time Murray paid to repair anything in the building was 1972, when he bought an eyepiece for his doorway so he could see when the building inspectors were coming. Now, one thing I'll say for Murray, most landlords don't like you having pets, but at the Pit, the pets came free with the apartment. You guessed it. Murray's apartments all had rats. We're not talking furry little cartoon mice. We're talking rats the size of checker cabs with all the attitude and charm of Attila the Hun. Now, like I said, I'm a traveling salesman. So one particular month, the company gives me this perfume to unload. Well, actually, it was supposed to be perfume, but they tested it on rats, and did it stink. The smell of this stuff drove the rats crazy. They couldn't stand it. The company was stuck with 5,000 cases, so I figured, hey, why not sell it as rat spray? With Murray, I got a ready-made customer in my own building. One whiff of this stuff, and it's goodbye rats. Hello, potential rent increases. So I go down to see Murray. It was the first time I'd ever been to his basement apartment. Oh, looking around, I wasn't eager for a return trip. It was filthy. Anyway, I went into my pitch about the rat spray, but all Murray says is, I didn't pay for him to come here, so why should I pay for him to leave? But old Mr. Crandall, who's always hanging around in the hallway, he overheard our conversation and decides to order a bottle. And he tells Mrs. Thomas in 5E. And she tells Mr. Gillings in 2A. And before you know it, I'd sold out my entire inventory to every tenant in the building. Murray, of course, is loving this. Without having to spend a dime, he's gonna get a rat-free building, and he can charge double the rent. Pretty soon, everybody's spraying every nook and cranny of their apartments, me included. It smelled kind of like old sweat socks, but the rats, they couldn't stand it. They were running around everywhere, trying to get away from the smell. Within minutes, the whole building was as rat-free as a cat convention. The perfume really worked. But where had all the rats gone? The one place that hadn't been sprayed. Murray's apartment. A bunch of us went down there, and it was crawling with hundreds and hundreds of sharp-toothed, squeaky, foul-smelling rats. There was nowhere else for them to go. They were eating everything in sight. Food, furniture, everything. And in the corner, there was Murray, cowering like a baby. Then we saw what was, for Murray, the most horrific thing of all. The rats had eaten all the rent money Murray had been collecting for years, which was hidden in the bottom of cereal boxes where robbers wouldn't look. But rats just love cereal boxes. That was a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Murray, who now insists on everyone paying their rent in coins.
Hi there from the Yukon. I have Sasquatch in sight, and I'll show them to you as soon as we get the camera defrosted enough to move them. So, back to you, Larry.
While we're waiting, let's have our next freaky story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Jenny was never afraid of anything. Even as a kid, you couldn't get a scare out of her. Not with spiders, not with snakes, not with nothing. Billy Krychuk once snuck a dead bat into her rain boots at school. She dissected it for extra credit. At Halloween, the kids would bet each other how many seconds they could stand on creepy Mrs. Wheeler's porch. Jenny won with an hour and a half. Nothing could shake her. That is, until last summer when that maniac got on the loose. Just looking at the wanted poster, you knew the guy was a classic psycho. Dirty trench coat, one crutch, broken glasses, and a wool cap. Mrs. Potter turned off her kitchen light one night to find him staring right back at her through the window. Henrietta Grimsby from 12th grade looked in her rearview mirror at the drive-in and saw him sitting in the back seat. So when Jenny's parents insisted she couldn't stay alone while they flew off to Aunt Mabel's wedding in Kapitsky, Jenny had other ideas. The biology final was only 4 weeks away, and there was work to be done on her elongated grub study. Jenny looked forward to a quiet weekend. Just her and the grubs. And Duke, of course. Oh, didn't I mention the family dog? 180 pounds of serious canine. I mean, the girl wasn't completely stupid. She studied for a little while, locked the door, and hit the sack early, with Duke on the floor beside her. But then there was a banging noise, then a series of dull thuds. Jenny's heart beat hard in her chest, her breathing shallow and quick as she stared blindly round her pitch-black room. Jenny pulled her foot out from under the covers and was searching for her slippers on the floor below, when she felt the gentlest of licking on the tips of her toes. Duke was sleeping under the bed. He'd be barking his head off if there was some maniac in the house, right? So Jenny just said, "Good dog," rolled over and went back to sleep. Minutes later, she was sitting straight up in bed, terrified. This time the noise was more like a scraping and a grunting and a kind of slobbering coming from deep in the belly of the house. Again, her foot searched for the slippers, and again a reassuring lick or two convinced Jenny that all was well. The third time Jenny woke up, she was nearly paralyzed with fear. The sound was a cry, a long, mournful wailing, like something from the dead, like a madman. Jenny tried to calm down. It was probably the wind, or maybe she'd left the TV on. She knew she had to go downstairs, but it was all she could do to pull her feet out from under the covers and swing them off the side of the bed. Again, there was a gentle licking. Duke was still there. So Jenny made her way to the door and down the stairs and into the deserted kitchen. Moonlight streamed through the window, throwing shadows across the tile and up the walls and over the cellar door. The cellar door. Whatever was making that horrible noise was there, down in the basement. So Jenny swallowed hard, reached for the doorknob, pulled the door open, and tried not to shudder as she flicked on the one little bulb. There was Duke, all sad and howling. Tail between his legs, empty packets of hamburger scattered around, and an ashamed kind of look on his face. That's what all that noise had been. The slobbering and scraping and howling. The dog had been locked in the basement, and Then it hit her. How could the dog be locked in the basement? He'd been licking her feet the whole night. Then Jenny looked out the window, and there he was, running away from the house. Dirty trench coat, broken glasses, one crutch, and a wool cap. He looked back over his shoulder and shouted to Jenny, "I can lick too!" This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Oh, Jenny was all right. She screamed and fainted and woke up with the dog really licking her feet this time. And she realized dogs do lick different than humans. They slobber less.
Come in, Maurice.
And just like I promised, the abominable snowman.
That's nothing but a teddy bear.
No, it's a monster. Only he's far away, so he looks small. You said it would look more like Sasquatch. Back to you, Larry.
Do you think Maurice could be scamming us?
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. Okay, so Megan's not exactly a friend. I'm kind of more popular, and I hate to sound conceited. Prettier. Anyway, the story doesn't even start with Megan. It starts with Bradley, a boy who happened to be Megan's boyfriend. You see, Bradley's family had this real pain of a mutt called Nutmeg. Well, one morning, Bradley's mom noticed that Nutmeg wasn't up to her usual destructive self. She just kind of stayed curled up near the door and wasn't interested in anything but sleeping. So she bundled the mutt up and took her to the vet. Oh, the vet could see that something wasn't right, but he couldn't tell for sure without taking some tests. You know, he took some blood and asked Bradley's mom to bring in a sample of Nutmeg's poop for testing. Well, after dinner, Nutmeg went out for her usual run in the park. She asked Bradley to drop the sample off at the vet's on his way home from school the next day, but Bradley made all kinds of excuses so he wouldn't have to carry around that stuff. He claimed he had soccer practice. His mom said, "That's okay, the vet's open late." Then he said he's got to go to Dave's house to dissect a frog for science class. Yeah, right, like Bradley knew one end of a frog from another. The poor dog was real sick, and taking the sample to the vet was the least Bradley could do. Okay, so Bradley's mom, being considerate and all, wrapped the sample in a box so nobody would know what it was. Bradley could leave the box in his locker and drop it off at the vet on his way to studying or whatever. When Bradley got to school, he was glad to see that Dave, that's the kid who shared his locker, had the locker door open and ready for Bradley to slip his backpack in without too much fuss. But the backpack was bulging on account of the box of poop. So Bradley took the box out, shoved the backpack in, and put the box on the top shelf. Then Bradley headed off to his homeroom. And who did he bump into? His girlfriend, Megan. She was all excited because it was their 3-month anniversary. Well, Bradley wasn't totally stupid. He said that he did have something for Megan, but he wanted to give it to her after school. Bradley figured how at lunchtime he could get to the mall, buy a present, and get back without missing a class. But when Megan went to Bradley's locker to find him, so she'd know where and when to meet him after school, Dave was there, but no Bradley. And Megan spotted the box. Cool, she figured. Bradley really did get her something for their anniversary. And at lunch, she bragged to me that Bradley got her a present. But Bradley was so Bradley. I simply wouldn't believe he got Megan a present unless I could see it with my own eyes. I suggested Megan should go and open the locker. After all, girlfriends and boyfriends know each other's locker combinations. Megan felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. But then, along came Susan and Jody, who happened to be my friends, and we kind of ganged up on Megan, who still wouldn't give in. Now, Susan once was Dave's girlfriend. That was before his dermatological misfortunes. So she still knew the combination to the locker. And to our surprise, there it was. A box. But what could be in it? Well, Jody hovered close over the box while Susan opened it. The screams that exploded through the high school halls that day rattled the trophy case. Susan flung the box against the locker with such force that you-know-what splattered all over the place. Mostly all over Susan and Jody. Oh yeah, this is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine. And Nutmeg was just fine, even after she ate Bradley's science project. Turns out the dog loves frog's legs.
Come in, Maurice.
Hey, come on, more snow.
We're out of snow.
Maurice, where are you?
I can't hear you.
Breaking up.
Found some snow.
What can I say? Here's another freaky story.
This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Freddie. That's what Frederica called herself. She was a regular 10-year-old kid, like me. But Freddie had to put up with an annoying 13-year-old brother named Teddy. Freddie and Teddy. Was that supposed to be cute or something? Anyway, Teddy's life was all about his electronic video games, his silly ant farm, his scary heavy metal posters, and the stupid comic books he hid under his bed. Even with all these hobbies, Teddy still had free time to bug his little sister. Like when Freddie would ask to play with Teddy's electronic games, Teddy'd say, "You're not old enough for Mega Monster Marauders." When she'd ask to see his precious ant farm, he'd say, "No way! If my ants see your dopey face, it'll scare them half to death." And when Freddie skinned her knee and her mom made her chocolate pudding to take her mind off the hurt, guess who sneaked in and ate the pudding before she could get to it? Yeah, right. Luckily, Freddie's favorite stuff wasn't pudding. It was maple syrup. Freddie loved maple syrup. Really loved it. It was her favorite food in the whole world. That's why Freddie loved to go to the pancake castle. Freddie's mom loved the Belgian waffles. Her dad loved the buttermilk pancakes. And her goomy brother loved to dunk Freddie's hair in the melted butter when Mom and Dad weren't looking. Now, Freddie'd always take home a bunch of those little maple syrup packets from the restaurant. She collected them. That was her hobby. By the time she was 10, she had more than 2,000 of those maple syrup packet things stuffed in the back of her closet. 2,000! Amazing! Anyhow, one day Teddy decided he needed to have some fun. You know, see how mad he could make Freddie. So while Freddie was playing jump rope with me, Teddy got to her maple syrup collection and began to poke tiny little holes in the packet so the maple syrup could drip out into a bucket. Poke, poke, poke. Drip, drip, drip. But one bucket wasn't enough to hold all the syrup that he was pouring. So Teddy emptied the bucket into the bathtub and filled another bucket. And another one. Then another. And later, when Freddie went home for her daily snack of pop-up waffles and maple syrup, she sat down at the table and slid 2 frozen waffles into the toaster. But when she peeled off the top of the maple syrup packet, nothing came out. She tried another packet. Empty. They were all empty. Empty, empty, empty. No maple syrup? It was payback time. Freddie got herself ready with a couple of boxes of frozen waffles. The trap was ready, and she set the bait, which in this case was her very own self. She went to Teddy's door, pulled it open, and unplugged his joystick, just as he was about to break his own world record of killing 18,000 of those Mega Monster Marauder things. "You're not gonna live till dinner," Teddy howled, and he took off after her, tearing down the hall. She led him on a wild chase through the house, then ambushed him at the bathroom door. Freddie flung her frozen waffles. Boom! A direct hit. Oof! Then another hit. Teddy took one frozen waffle hit after another. The attack continued. He backed his way into the safety of the bathroom. Back, until he tripped and fell right into the bathtub. Into Freddy's maple syrup. Splash! He dragged himself up out of the slimy, gooey glop. I'll get you for this, he sputtered as the sticky maple syrup oozed down his body. And that's when Freddy released Teddy's precious ant collection. Thousands of them, the whole farm, flooded under the bathroom door. And we all know how ants love maple syrup. This is a true story. It happened to a friend of mine, Freddy. Now her big brother, Teddy, leaves her alone. He's learned his lesson, and he doesn't want to end up covered with orange marmalade, which is what Freddy now collects.
Dear Larry, my baby loves the sound of your voice. Can you read him a bedtime story?
Well, I just happen to have one here.
Oh, goody, I can use an app.
Okay, over to our storybook. Okay. Once upon a time, Jeremy thought he should find himself a wife. The problem was, Jeremy was a dung beetle. Jeremy stank. He met a fly who said, "My, oh my, you stink so bad it makes me cry." He met a snail who went all pale, 'cause that snail could not inhale. He met a tick who got sick quick, and he chased him with a 10-foot stick.
Poor dung beetle can't find a wife. It's turned my guts out. How do you expect me to fall asleep?
Oh, calm down. Here comes the good part.
Oh, good.
How he met Alice, no one knows. She's a butterfly to whom he did propose. Alice thought Jeremy smelled like a rose because Alice had mucho boogers stuffed up her nose. Feel better now? I am good. Later. Now, let me see.